Hello guys, so in today's tutorial we're going to be looking at painting normals using Quixel. I've done a similar video before, a couple of years ago I think, using Quixel Suite 2, which is the plugin that Quixel did for Photoshop. So this is a little bit different now, so just needs a little bit of a revise on this. So that's what we're going to look at today. Pipeline will involve using 3 Max, Photoshop, Quixel Mixer and Unreal, so quite a big one in what we're doing. This is what we're looking for in terms of like the final the final sort of product. So I'm just going to delete that from the scene, and what we'll do is we'll start this from fresh. So I'm going to minimize this down. I'm going to go to 3D Studio Max, just full screen my viewport here. Bring in a box. I'm just going to make sizes, so I'll go width 100 and length 40. I made that 40 as well. Yeah, perfect. Don't need to worry about length or width segments, that's fine. I'll press F4 so I can see my edge faces, and I'll come into Modify tab and just add an Edit Poly modifier. Polygon mode, select the top and the bottom, and then I will just come into Bevel and just type in 10, and then 10 in this one as well. Perfect, click OK. I'm just going to select Edit Poly there as well, and then just press W on the keyboard to go to Move, and just move that into the center like so. My pivot point isn't, my pivot point is where it should be, but obviously I've got this bit of model sticking out underneath it, so I'm just going to lift it up by 10 on the Z-axis, because that's how much we beveled it out by. And then I'll just move the pivot point down by going to the Hierarchy tab, Effect Pivot Only, and I'll just right click on that to set it to 0. And there we go, so that's that part done. So I'll come into the Modify tab, and we just want to go and type in UN to get to Unwrap UVW nice and quick. Open up UV Editor down here, and I'll just make it a little bit bigger so we can see what's going on. And then I'll just press Control A to select all the different polygons. It automatically opens up in polygon mode, so that's why if I press Control it's going to do that. I'll go to Mapping and Flatten Mapping. I'm not going to spend too much time on the UVs. We could spend time like refining these and making sure we're making the most out of the UV space, but for today's demonstration we'll just do it nice and quick. So that's fine. Yours might not look exactly the same, but no worries. As long as we can see all the different faces of the model, that's fine. So I'll close that down. I'll right click over here and go Collapse All, which will essentially bake the UV information into our model, which is what we want. And I can then go to File and Export. Just go on my desktop for the time being. I'll just call it SARC, and then Smoothing Groups, Triangulate, Preserve Edge Orientation up. Click OK. Brilliant. And that's it. We can close that down now. So we'll get rid of that, and then we'll head over to Photoshop. So I'll choose the. I'll just go for a standard size here. So what I'm going to do here is, in fact, actually what I'll do is I'll go to Mixer first. We'll set it up from here just so you can see how it's going to come in. So just create a new mix and call it SARC again. I'll stick with a working resolution of 2048, 2K texture. Click OK. And then the setup section, which we come to automatically, very custom mesh. I'll bring in that just there. Brilliant, that's coming nicely. Go to layers, and then so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a sand layer onto here. So I think I've got one already in my local library. I'll just search for sand. There we go, that's fine. Yep, and that looks okay. I don't think I need to adjust like the scale of that or anything, so that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint some sort of hieroglyphics onto the side of that. I'm going to use the paint functionality inside of Mixer to allow us to do that. So add paint layer. And I might have some left over from before. No, I must have deleted them all out, unless they're down here. Nope. But if we choose like this handprint brush just here, for example, we have different options in terms of what we can actually paint with. So the albedo being like the color or the image that might make up the albedo, sometimes referred to as the diffuse if you remember. Metalness and roughness working together to create like either a metallic finish or roughness. to make it super rough or shiny. So varying positions on these sliders here will kind of create different aesthetics. And then displacement, which in my opinion should be called displacement slash normal, because displacement and normals are different in the sense that they're both trying to do the same thing. They're both trying to create the illusion of depth within the model. And I say illusion because you're not actually going to be using expensive polys or verts in your model to try and create that structure. Instead, what we're going to use a normal map that will create that illusion. And as I say, there is this thing called displacement, and that's something slightly different. It's set up a slightly different way. And we might look at exploring that in the future, but for now we just want the normal. The good news is that we don't have to do anything. It's the displacement just translates perfectly across to a normal when we export out our maps, which again is why I say I think it should be called displacement slash normal. But there you go. I'm sure they have their reasons. So if I just zoom in here and I'll change my color to something obvious like red, and I'll just change the size of this as well. I'll just click. You can see that it paints that in, and it also paints it in at the angle. So if I go here, it's just a bit too much, isn't it? But if I go there and paint it from this angle, it does like that. But obviously, if I move it across, we've got it stretched. So do bear in mind that it's important which angle you're doing that from. But also, in fact, I'll hide the albedo just so we can focus in on the other aspects, and I'll bump this up as well so it's a bit higher. You can see it's just essentially now creating that illusion of depth we were talking about before. I'll turn off those as well. I'll turn this down a little bit because I think it's actually a bit too intense now. In terms of you can't really see what's going on. There we go, that's a bit better. It's obviously balancing itself as well with the fact that the sand automatically has a normal layer associated with it. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but that normal layer is there. If I hide that, then we're just left with that just there. So you're balancing the two things together. Let's come back to here, and I'll just press Control Z actually a couple of times to go back. Yeah, cool. So I'm going to bring in some custom brushes, which is what we want Photoshop for. So I'll come over to here. And I will create my canvas so just as a 1K, so 1024 by 1024. Make sure it is in RGB color, of course. I'll just change that to 150. And it's already, my brush is already set up for this already, but I will put the link for where you can get these particular brushes if you want them. Just found them online, completely free. And so what I'm going to do first is I'll go to my paint bucket. I'll switch to black, and I'm just going to paint the background black, like so. And then I don't think you need to do it on a separate layer, but I will do. I'll come into brush again, and then to activate, to kind of get into those brushes, I'll just need to download them, and then you simply just drag the downloaded file into the user interface. So literally just drag it from where it is, like in your downloads folder, drag it in, and then release it roughly around the top area here, and that will then just add the brushes automatically to Photoshop, which is what it's done here. So I've got them in here already, which is cool. So I've got my first one, I've just made that a little bit bigger, and I'll just switch to white, and then roughly try and place it around the middle, like so. I just thought I did get caught out beforehand where the outside wasn't completely black because I've used the paint bucket tool. So actually I could just come to the paint bucket and I just click it a couple of times. Just make sure that's all the way around to the edges. Hopefully that will work. We'll see in a bit. Yeah, when I was pulling it through to mix, what's happening is it was coming through as a square tile. So there was, I think there's still some white colour around the edges, ever so slightly, as it was pulling that in as well. But we just obviously want this to be pulled in here in the middle. Cool. So this one's called, is that M1? I'm saying that right? Hopefully. So go File and Save, and then I'll put that on the desktop. Naturally, you'll probably have a much more sensible place than me to put these things, but I'll just call that M1. And I'll go just confirm OK. Push Control Z to get rid of the brush. Open up my brushes again here. And then we'll try to renew this time. What I'll also do as well is take advantage of the fact that in brush settings I can flip it to the direction, just so we've got a little bit of variety perhaps. Oh, still my white brush. On the wrong layer as well. Okay. What am I doing? Was that not working? Interesting. Okay, I'll just remove that. Sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. Try that again. So, perfect. Yeah, that's fine. And so I'll go ahead and click File and Save As. JPEG again. And what was this one called? Amoeba, wasn't it? Brilliant. And then we'll see how we go with those ones. We can always bring another one if we wanted to. So we'll come over here, and we're still on our paint layer just here. So from here, it's already got one kind of logged in, logged for using. So I'll just click on the X, and it'll give us the option then of loading the image. We'll choose that from here. So I'll choose this one first. And yeah, that's coming nicely. If we want to save that for later as well, we can come up here and go Save Brush, and it will reference the title that the image is coming in. So actually put brush at the end of it as well, just to make that super clear. And what we'll probably want to do with this is we'll want to, we'll go left view, nope, go front view then. There we go. We'll just zoom in using the middle mouse wheel. And I'll press in the middle mouse wheel as well, just to make sure that I'm in the right position. And then once you are in position, you don't want to use your mouse wheel to sort of scroll in or out any further. I would just recommend changing the size instead. So let's keep it nice round numbers. So 300, how's that looking? Bit too big perhaps? It might be okay, we'll try it. Yeah, that's actually all right. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in the albedo and maybe the roughness into there. Turn that roughness up. Then for the color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my mouse off the color palette and take a reference to the color that's already here, and then just make it ever so slightly darker. So that when I do this, you get a little bit of a shadowed area as well. Okay, so at the moment I am using lower displacement, so this is kind of indenting it in. I could switch it to this one, and that will bring it out instead that way. So obviously it depends on what you want for it. I'm going to stick to inverting it, so that's fine. Probably put one there as well. Doesn't matter too much, does it? And then I've saved that one, so I will, yeah, saved up there. So I'll get rid of that, and I'll bring in my Anubis one. Same one again. So click there, and then I think I am actually going to bring another one in, aren't I? So do that one there. I'll quickly go back over to Photoshop, and then undo the one that I did. Go back into here, choose a different one. Horace. There we go. Click to confirm. File. Save as. JPEG. Horace. There we go. So I've not saved that one yet, have I? So I'll just do that. Brush. Save that. Taking a little while this one for some reason. And then we'll get rid of that one and then bring in Horace. And there we go. Horace. Brilliant. Okay. So that is that in terms of the painting normals. Whilst we're here, we could do a couple other things as well, just perhaps to improve the aesthetics of this. Just just a couple of tips really, in terms of what we can look at. So I'll go back into perspective view, and it's also useful perhaps if you hold down Shift, and if you then right-click on a mouse and drag, you can actually move the position of the light where it's coming from, and you can see then how this will look in those various different lightings. So if it's outside, or if there's going to be light pointing towards it in your level, how that's going to look in relation to that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another layer onto this. So go to local library again, and I'm going to search for sand again. Sand. There we go. Go for a darker one. and I'll put this on top like that. There we go. I might bring that back down again in a second. I'll see. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to create some variation in what's going on. We don't want it to look too neat and tidy. And you know, we probably could just about get away with this stand here because it's got a nice null map on it, and so it doesn't look too formulaic, should we say. But what we can also do with this is kind of obviously the way that we brought the actual brushes in with a black background, you know, and it being a white color. We're kind of essentially using masks to specify the area that we want to have that the brush can actually, you know, manipulate in. And so masks are, you know, super important in Photoshop, but they can be super important and useful inside Mixer as well. You know, as we've kind of demonstrated here. Again, this brush that we brought in, black background, you know, white foreground being white. It works the same as a mask. So with this someone here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this section at the bottom which says Add Mask Stack to this layer. So it's going to add a mask stack to it. At the moment, nothing's in it. Again, it's just like adding a mask in Photoshop. I've got some options over here that I can do to that. So if I go to Add Mask Component and go to Noise, let's try Perlin. I think Perlin works quite nicely. There we go. So what's happened here is that we've then got this nice mask here in terms of areas that are visible and invisible, and it's just then blending that naturally with what's going on underneath it. Okay. I quite like that, and we could change how that's spawning. We could change things like the amplitude as well in that. You know, so we've got some nice settings to play around with, some frequency, that kind of thing. Invert it if you want it to go the other way. So some great options just from that one. That's just one of the modifiers that are available in here. So the mask components that are available inside of that mask. There's lots of instruction on how to use different variations of these different masks in a lot of the Quixel videos as well. So I do recommend having a look at those if you're interested in creating some of these nice effects. And just improving your kind of overall knowledge of Quixel Mix as well, of course. But I'm going to go to I'm going to select the actual the paint layer, the actual material, the surface layer just here. There we go, got there in the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the albedo and just drop this down. And we've got, again, some similar options that we'd see inside of Photoshop. So I can go down to Overlay. And what this is going to do, it's going to blend it in with what's going on underneath. Okay. I then have the option as well of changing the opacity. But actually, I quite like, I think we've got that nice aesthetic there. Maybe a bit too intense. That's maybe a little bit lower. But yeah. So we can kind of keep building this up, and obviously the intention being of by making it look less formulaic and by adding kind of more variation and, shall I say, randomness to it, we are essentially creating a more realistic texture for our, essentially our very simple model that we've got here. Okay, so that's about it, guys. So we just need to go to export, and it looks like it's going to the right place. No, sorry, that is a different one. So I'll set it up so it goes to the right place. Let's go back here. There we go, that's the right one. Create subfolder. Yep, so that will keep them all together. And I'll just make sure that I use the UE4, which will be the albedo, roughness, normal, ambient occlusion, and mattleness. Yep, those are the ones I want. So I'll export those five maps. Excuse me. And that should have done the trick. So now I just need to head over to Unreal and make sure. Yep, and I've got this little notification saying we've got some stuff that wants to import it. Do you want to import it? Yes, please. Just going to bring those in for us. And I might just have to just move those to the right place. So I'll come back here. And where are you? Oh, there it is. So those are the ones just there. I've already got a folder called I've already got a folder called SARP as well. So actually, I will do it just out here then instead. So in here, just to keep everything sort of nice and neat and tidy as well. It doesn't if you remember, it doesn't export the model for you, so you need to sort of do that separately. So I'll just go to import and navigate to that model there. That's all fine. Yep, no changes there. Default there. Create new materials. Don't need to because we've already got materials in here. Then therefore don't need to import the textures either, although I don't think there's any textures coming through. And click import all. That's fine. So we'll just right click on the main albedo material and then create material from that. Yeah, sorry, so that was to right click on the texture, beg your pardon. I think I said material. So yeah, right click on the texture and turn it into a material. And then I will hold down Control, select the rest of these, drag that up to the tab that's opened. It's got the material in. And then just put these plug them into the right spots. So this one's ambient occlusion, so it's going to go down there. Metalness goes into metallic, so just move this up to make it look a bit tidier. And then we must have our roughness next. Just there, put that there. And then plug that into the normal, as it is a normal map. And then plug that into ambient occlusion. And there you go. Click save. Close that down. And then we just need to, I'll just open this up and I'll just drag this in here so that this material is always associated with this model, like so. Save that. And then we'll just bring this into the scene. Quite small, so I'll just make this a little bit bigger. And then rotate that round. I think, yeah, I put a point light in here just to add a little bit of lighting to that as well, just so we can see how those normals looked. And there you go. That is how we bring that in. That's how we paint normals. Obviously, I'm going to continue to go around and change it if we wanted to, which is really cool. This is the actual normal map itself, which is great. And I just wanted to make sure that's all coming fine. I think it has. Don't think there's any problems with that one at all. Sometimes there used to be an option, I believe, for where you can invert the green, but I can't see that for some reason. So perhaps they've taken it out. Perhaps it's something else that I'm thinking of. But yes, I'll perhaps explore that in a different video then. There was just sometimes, when you brought normal maps in, you would want it so that potentially the normal map was facing the wrong way. Obviously you would normally hope to resolve that in the software that you've actually created normal maps with, but you can also do it. There was a way to do it in here as well, but I shall have to look for that for next time for you guys. Okay, well, I hope that's made sense, and that's going to help you guys out in terms of just adding more functionality and more uniqueness, I suppose, to the projects that you're working on. Yeah, thanks very much. I will see you next time.